This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and exciting times if you're a gamer with the new NVIDIA RTX graphics cards finally being out on laptops. We're going to be reviewing a lot of those, let me tell you. And it takes a lot of testing because NVIDIA's drivers right now are a moving target. They keep updating them to squash bugs and improve performance and all that sort of thing. But this is the MSI GE75 Raider. There's also a GE63. The difference is the 63 is 15.6 inch and this one is 17.3 inches. But you know, it doesn't feel like it's so much. It's relatively thin and relatively light. And now we have those skinny bezels that are so fashionable, so it reduces the footprint of the laptop. Personally, I find this very interesting. If you're coming from something like one of MSI's older Titans, like I have an MSI Titan GT73VR. Now that was a big honking machine, but I liked it because of the cooling. I never had to worry about the CPU and GPU, and that one has a GTX 1080 in it, by the way. And now I'm seeing similar, a little bit better performance in this RTX 2070 model for a lot thinner and lighter chassis and other nice modern things like finally, Microsoft Precision trackpads. For years I've been getting on MSI's case for their horrible, horrible trackpads. This one's perfectly usable. No more TN displays. We now have IPS displays, probably really AHVA displays, but it's an IPS-like technology. So much better viewing angles. We're going to look at it now. All right, let's talk specs real quick before we get into all the rest of it. This still has Intel 8th generation 6-core Coffee Lake CPUs. Intel has not released the 9th generation quite yet for laptops. So if you're looking at something from the last year, you're going to get the same CPU here. The improvement is obviously the latest generation in NVIDIA RTX graphics cards with ray tracing support and DLSS, which is deep learning, better than TAA for details on your screen, things looking a little bit sharper. You get the idea. So this is available with RTX 2060, 2070, and 2080. GPUs, and these are not the Max Qs. These are the full Monty. So that's a good thing because in this generation RTX, the Max Qs really get clocked down a lot to fit in that kind of Max Q, low power, low temperature kind of thing. So you're getting more performance here. You've got 2 RAM slots, DDR4, 2666 megahertz RAM. You've got 2 M.2 slots, NVMe, and the second slot supports SATA 3 also, so if you don't want to buy the more expensive SSD, you can do that. A 2.5-inch drive bay, typically populated with a 7200 RPM fast hard drive for your big storage. Of course, this one has a lot of ports too, so you can plug in an external monitor if you want to go for higher resolution. You've got HDMI 2.0, so that does 40K at 60 hertz. You've got a mini display port as well. While we're talking about ports, lots of ports, which is one of the sweet things about getting something that's thin but not psycho thin. So you've got 3 USB-A ports. 2 of them are Gen 1. One is Gen 2, actually. A USB-C Gen 2 port. No Thunderbolt 3 here, though. And you've got Gigabit Ethernet. It's killer. And you've got a full-size SD card slot. And you got 2 audio jacks, mic, headphone. The headphone out also supports SPDIF. So you get the idea. Well-appointed, plenty of ports. Sweet. I call this the Honey Who Shrunk the MSI Titan laptop. So you're getting a lot of the same performance you would, say, with a Titan laptop with a Core i7 in it and also an RTX 2070, but with a thinner casing, but not as thin as my MSI's Stealth Thin line, which is the GS line, the GS65 and 75. Again, 15 and 17-inch models. Personally, for somebody who games quite a lot and doesn't have to take it everywhere, I think that this is the sweet spot. It's pretty darn portable. In fact, it's amazingly portable given to what we saw just a couple of years ago to get this level of cooling and performance. But at the same time, you don't have the same limitations. With the Stealth Thin series, we're going to be reviewing those too. You have the Max Q version of those RTX GPUs, so considerably lower clock speeds, lesser performance. So a plus for this one, if you're hardcore into gaming, is you're going to get more frames per second in your games. Also, you've got room for those plenty of ports compared to a super thin model. Now you can see the comparison in the weight between the GS Stealth Thin 75 and the GE75 Raider, so you can make your decision based on portability. Though this is by far not the most expensive thing that MSI sells, their Titan line is still the most expensive, and it has mechanical keyboards, weighs 10 plus pounds, has Thunderbolt 3, by the way. This one still has lots of nice creature comforts that we'd expect to see for a laptop in this price range. You have per key RGB backlighting, including Inside of SteelSeries and Dragon Center software, you can program it. It has a bunch of presets for Overwatch and Far Cry 5 and other games, or you can roll your own on per-key lighting. The USB-A ports light up. You can have them full brightness, half brightness. There's 7 effects, or you can just turn them off if you think this is a tacky thing. I find it really useful because I often do game in a fairly dark environment and I can never find the USB-A ports. I want to plug in a controller or a mouse or whatever it is. So that's pretty sweet too. All right, let's talk about the unit itself. We've talked about the specs. We've talked about where it sits in MSI's line and in thin and light versus sort of thin and light gaming laptops in general. And there still aren't a lot of very sort of thin and light gaming laptops. So MSI has a wide open field right now for taking your money if you like that sort of thing. They've done some improvements. Like I said, no more TN display, fast refresh, 144 Hertz. I noticed the difference having used the TN panel version that they had before for viewing angles. The TN panels that they had pretty good contrast, actually, and very nice saturated colors, but yeah, there's always those viewing angles, which was kind of annoying. The lid now, the brushed aluminum is gone, which was such a fingerprint magnet and dust collector, like anything. So this is still aluminum on the top, but it's a nice matte looking, more mature, a little bit more stealth thin-like finish. I like it. You're always going to have that MSI Dragon logo on the lid, and there are the 2 red lines. And for a while with the Raider, it was the RGB laptop, and they had RGB lighting on the lid. Not this one. It's just the static red plastic lines on that aluminum lid. The keyboard deck is also aluminum. The bottom is ABS plastic. So if you want that razor blade kind of chic, metal everywhere kind of laptop experience, well, go get a razor blade, because this is not it. And not many of the gaming laptops are, because they're already getting kind of expensive, and that just raises the price. And the nice thing about ABS plastic is it doesn't transfer heat so much to you. So the bottom on this, I was playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider for an hour, and I could put it on my lap. I tend not to, so it runs cooler. I don't block the vents with my legs. I tend to try to keep it on a desk, but it does not get much beyond human body temperature, which is pretty impressive for something with this level of performance inside playing the latest DirectX 12 games. The top doesn't get hot either. The keyboard area will get warm, and that's about it. The strip above the keyboard, which is often a hot spot because that's near where the heat sinks are for the CPU and the GPU, does not get very hot either. So well done there. The SteelSeries Keyboard on here, I always like SteelSeries. It's got good damping, it's got good key travel. This is not compromised at all in terms of key travel because it's not super, super skinny. It feels nice to type on it. So if you're buying a laptop to do stuff besides game, which you probably are, then you're going to like this. It does have a number pad. The 17-inch model has plenty of room for that, so that's just fine with me. It supports N-key rollover. Again, you can press more keys than you have fingers at once, and it supposedly will keep track of which ones you are pressing first. The good news is a Microsoft Precision Trackpad. It's a decent size too. It has dedicated physical clickers. Gamers are supposed to like this better, but I don't think gamers ever use the trackpad, honestly. But the old MSI trackpads I used to moan and whine about were a disaster. I mean, I was accidentally flinging files everywhere, zooming when I didn't mean to. So all that's gone. This is a very nice Microsoft Precision Trackpad. The clicker buttons are still a little stiff, but not as bad as some of MSI's old models where you could just about dislocate your thumb joint. So again, we have the Core i7-8750H, which is the only option for this. There's no Core i9 option so far. And we have the NVIDIA RTX 2070. You can also get it with a 2060 or a 2080. And the benchmarks on our 2070 they're good. They're actually, it's a little bit better than last generation GTX 1080. So that's pretty nice. So this seems to happen with NVIDIA cards lately. If you want to go all the way up to that RTX 2080 and really blow away your 1080 model, you're going to have to spend $400 to $500 more. There's a big price jump going from the 2070 to the 2080. Personally, I feel the 2070 is probably the sweet spot. You're getting a lot more oomph than you are even with the 2060, but you're not spending the crazy bucks for the 2080. Now, 6 months or a year from now when prices drop, probably the 2080 will be more approachable, financially speaking. But with the 2070 beating out the GTX 1080, well, that's a lot of performance there, and the benchmarks, you can see all of them on screen, bear that out. It's impressive performance. As seems to be the trend with these RTX laptops, this ships with 16 gigs of RAM, which is fine, and it is a single 16 gig module, and you have 2 slots. So that's nice. You don't have to throw away any RAM if you want to upgrade it to 32 gigs, but that means it's a single channel configuration for RAM, which is a little bit slower. It really depends on what you're doing, though. For example, in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it made no difference. I tested it by adding another module in so we could try dual channel versus single channel. It made not much of a difference. Benchmark scores about 3 to 5% higher if you upgrade to dual channel RAM. But Far Cry 5, for some reason, is the game that always does better with dual channel RAM. And there you'll see like a 20% improvement in performance. So you've been warned. You've been advised. Upgrade the RAM if you play Far Cry 5. So I've been saying a lot of happy, nice things about this. What's not so happy? It doesn't have NVIDIA G-Sync. Now, a couple of years ago when G-Sync came out, it was a godsend for stopping visual tearing, but now that we have such high refresh monitors, this 144 hertz panel, I don't actually feel that I need it. I haven't missed it at all, but it's not there because you have NVIDIA Optimus instead, which is switchable graphics. Generally for something that is on the more portable end of the spectrum, you'll see Optimus with switchable graphics so you can run on Intel UHD 630 graphics when you're just doing productivity work or streaming video or something and you don't want to just tank your battery life. Again, there is no Thunderbolt 3 here. There is a USB-C Gen 2 port. Kind of a bummer. Just because of this price range, I would like to see it, even though it has plenty of ports. It's not like I need a Thunderbolt 3 dock on it. But there's that. It says MSI's classic cooling, which is a good thing. Now they're up to Cooler Boost 5. But they have, we'll talk about that when we open it up and take a look at all the cooling stuff in there. But very beefy cooling. Pretty impressed with that. Typically, MSI uses a fairly decent quality thermal paste, too. You could repaste this if you wanted to. It would probably shave off 4 or 5 degrees, maybe centigrade, on your core temperatures. More heat pipes than most of the competition inside of here. There's room for them, and they're using every inch. Because they're using every inch, you're getting a smaller battery. I think for those who are looking for performance gaming laptops, that's probably the right trade-off. You're not buying this as a business go everywhere laptop, and still thin is there for you and other laptops for that. So yeah, 51 watt-hour battery, kind of laughable. That's an Ultrabook capacity battery. The display on this is very good. It is not super wide gamut for content creators, but for a gaming display, it clicks all the right boxes. You've got good color gamut on here. That's pretty much what you would expect in this price range, which is full sRGB gamut. It's brighter than average. Most gaming laptop displays don't get that bright. This one gets inordinately bright. I was really actually blinded by it when I first booted it up. The gamma, the white point, all those sort of things are good. I did remove MSI's True Color utility. Some of you like that. It has a couple of different color calibrations to choose from, whether it's gaming or content creation or office, which for some reason makes things like purple. Why would you want a purple looking screen? Yeah, I don't know. Looking at it with our colorimeter with MSI True Color set to the default sRGB, which should be fairly neutral, the color accuracy bars were off the end. Lower is better. So I removed it. Basically, and it did better without that. I would suggest that you remove it too and calibrate it if you are going to be doing content creation. If not, enjoy True Color. So to take off the bottom cover, there are exposed Phillips head screws. Some of them are down in these little crevices right here, so be sure to find them all. They're all the same size except for, see there's a pair of holes here. The one towards the rear is a shorter screw on both sides there. And here is where the factory warranty sticker is. It doesn't say you'll void your warranty, and in fact in the United States that would be against the law for them to say that, but you do have to peel off the sticker to get to one of the screws under here. Get them all off. Then pry off the plastic ABS bottom, which is a pain in the butt. The more you do it, the easier it gets, because some of the plastic clips get a little more flexible, or some of them might snap off, but that's okay, because there are a million of them here. So that's our cover. So here's our interior. The nice thing to look at right here is 7 heat pipes. Right here we got 3 running here. We've got 4 running here, and most of them are separated, so you're not going to have heat bleeding from the CPU to GPU or vice versa. There's only one common heat pipe on this motherboard, so that's a good thing. Also, look at how beefy these heat sinks are. This isn't no weenie heat sink. This is covering a lot of product, and it's very thick. It's pretty effective. MSI typically uses pretty good thermal paste. You could repaste this if you wanted to. Unscrew the fans, and you'd have to remove this power cable, which does run across the fan intake and block it just a little bit, which is surprising. Now this itsy bitsy battery right here is the reason why the battery life isn't better on this. NVIDIA Optimus does help, and we've seen worse battery life out of gaming laptops, but hey. So the fan cage is good sized fans, nice and big, with exhausts on the back and on the sides, which is typical for MSI, always a good deal, and nice metal fan cages. This is good quality stuff in here. This is the hard drive bay right here. Now I've put a Samsung Evo SSD in here. It comes with a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM Seagate Barracuda Pro drive right here, but it's easier for me to just swap in an SSD because I have all my games pre-installed on that. But you can do that too. It's a pretty cost-effective upgrade to get faster game load times. It's our killer 1550i card, which is really an Intel 9560 AC card. Good times for those of you who prefer Intel. Here's our M.2 SSD. We have a 512 gig NVMe Western Digital, and there's another M.2 slot here, so you could put in a second SSD and forget about that hard drive completely if you wanted to. So MSI always has their Dyne audio branding for the hardware, and they use Nahimic 3 for the audio. But the funny thing is, boy, this is a real giant brain in marketing that came up with this new marketing name, Giant Speakers. So there you have the Giant Speakers. What you got here are two functionally subwoofers and two regular stereo units there, and the sound is surprisingly big. It's almost as full and loud as the Titan from MSI, which is one amazing sounding laptop. This one's also really good. And here are our two RAM slots with one 16 gig DDR4 2666 megahertz RAM module. So if you add a second in, you will get dual channel. But the good thing is if you want to upgrade, you don't have to throw anything away. Just get another 16 gig module when memory prices are less insane. You'll have dual channel and 32 gigs. Woohoo! Theory, you could go up to 64 if you got to two 32 gig modules. Another reason MSI typically gets my respect for gaming laptop design is they do those little things. You know, some laptops have had, thin and light gaming laptops have had problems with batteries that swell from the heat because the whole unit is running pretty hot. We won't name any names there, but we have our battery and it's not too close, but it's close enough to some of the heat. So check out this right here with our silver shielding. This separates the battery. This gives you a little isolation for the battery so the heat isn't directly radiating on it, so less likely that your battery is going to have swelling issues down the road if the laptop is running hot because you're gaming all the time. So how about thermals? Now that we've seen the internals on this, they're quite good. This is not Titan level because look at the thickness of the Titan. It's about twice as thick, and the entire bottom of a Titan is nothing but open grill work, yeah? But compared to the thin and lights, if you couldn't take how hot and loud a Stealth Thin ran or any of the other thin and lights, Razor Blade, you roll your own, whichever you mean. This one has pretty darn good thermals, and undervolting always is going to help. I just ran a very conservative 100 millivolt undervolt on this thing, and it dropped core temperatures about 4 or 5 degrees centigrade, which is significant. Temperatures on this playing, interestingly enough, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the DirectX 12 games actually run the GPU more efficiently, and that means less heat going on inside the chassis in total. We're actually pretty good. Upper 80s to sometimes low 90s. Far Cry 5, a little bit more of a pig in terms of resources. That one could go into the low 90s, and you'd see some thermal throttling on the cores. As ever with NVIDIA GPUs, they cruise along mostly at 75 centigrade, which is chill. That's good stuff there. With undervolting, again, you're going to stick probably to the upper 80s in most games. And I'm talking about running 1080p on ultra settings. Fan noise on this also isn't that bad as gaming laptops go. None of them are quiet when you're gaming. It's not as shrill and desperate sounding as a lot of the super thin and light gaming laptops that are on the market. Benefit of just adding a couple of millimeters more to your thickness. You will hear the fans, certainly, and they're very high quality fans, as you saw. And it's definitely the sound of a lot of air moving, but not whining, screeching, annoying in any sort of way. Generally speaking, did not drown out any games. There is a little cooler boost button on the keyboard deck that you can press if you want to just shoot it right to max fans, and that will be as loud as it could possibly get. It's not as quiet as a Titan, obviously, but it's a lot quieter than most of the thin and lights while generating more graphics power since you have full RTX cards. So battery life, it sucks, right? It's a gaming laptop, and it's not one of the thin and lights that are meant to both be your business/school travel companion and your gaming laptop sometimes. So a 51 watt-hour battery with NVIDIA Optimus helping out because you can switch to Intel integrated graphics automatically. It's about 4 hours or so with the brightness set to 150 nits, doing the usual mixed productivity, MS Office, a few photo edits, streaming some video from Netflix or Amazon Prime. That is about as good as it's going to get. It comes with a 280 watt charger, whether you get the RTX 2070 or 2080, and as MSI chargers go, it's gotten more pretty as shiny sides. Okay, whatever. So it's still a fairly hefty brick, and you are going to take it with you because 4 hours of battery life ain't all that, yeah? So it's interesting, though, that they can do 280 watts even if you're going up to an RTX 2080. Last gen with the GTXs, they were shipping them with 330 watt power supply. So the RTX cards are getting more power efficient. If you do move up to a Core i9 laptop, gaming laptop with an RTX 2080, you are still going to get a 330 watt charge of them. So that's the MSI GE75 Raider, also again available in a 15-inch size as well, which is the GE65. And I can see why this has been popular with those of you who have bought these. This is actually quite a good machine. I like the evolution of what they've been doing here. The improved display, the per RGB keyboard backlighting, the more mature looking lid that doesn't get as icky looking, combined with the fact that it's kind of that Goldilocks principle right in between. It's not super hunking desktop replacement, but it's not so crazy thin as some of the thin and light Max Q gaming laptops that might sacrifice some performance, noise, heat, cooling, all that sort of thing just to get so thin. For somebody who likes to game a lot and carries it around sometimes, this is kind of like the perfect in between. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, including gaming coverage. And thumbs up if you like this vid.